Wait, that's not a Buster Sword. This is an actual Buster Sword, Dark Cloud. You don't know anything, do you? Hey everyone, how's it going? Total Level here with another JRPG flashback, this time taking a look at my very first PlayStation 2 game, Dark Cloud. This game holds so many memories and nostalgia for me that I wanted to revisit this game yet again. Now, the first time I did this series, I talked about Trails of Cold Steel. I'm going to do things a bit different this time for this video, as I'm going to go with just one take here, as I want to express my thoughts about Dark Cloud. I do have notes to keep me on track and hopefully not ramble too much, but I might. And I may miss talking about certain parts, but it shouldn't be a big deal or anything. Also, while I won't go over major story plots or anything, there will be some spoilers as I talk about bosses and party members, so if you haven't played this game before, you have been warned. I will talk about my memories first with the game, how I got it, my experience, that sort of thing. Then I will go over cons, as I like to get that stuff out of the way, before finishing with pros and why I love this game. I hope you enjoyed this look back at a PlayStation 2 classic and enjoyed this series as a whole. Let me know in the comments down below your memories with Dark Cloud, and with that out of the way, let's begin. So, obviously this being my first ever PlayStation 2 game, there's going to be a lot of memories and nostalgia with this game, as playing this for the first time, experiencing the PlayStation 2 for the first time was quite mind-blowing. I mean, going from your 32 and 64-bit consoles of, PlayStation 1 and N64 of what I grew up with, going now to the PlayStation 2 where everything just looks so much better, right? And yeah, for Dark Cloud 2, I think this game still holds up really well today, and getting this game was a birthday gift of sorts because I used birthday money, but yeah, it was like a day or two after my birthday, something like that, and we went to the mall. My mom just got a PlayStation 2, right, so I wanted to get one, see, experience the console, right, and my brother was the one who pointed Dark Cloud out to me, mainly because on the back it talked about having this day-night cycle, which, yeah, it's funny to think about how stuff like that will sell you on games, or how they would put that on games, because it was a big deal back then, right? And yeah, I just remember having this great sense of adventure with this game too, of, exploring these dungeons, because this game isn't your typical RPG in that you're leveling everyone up or anything like that, right? It's a very kind of Zelda-like experience, because you have this dungeon crawling aspect where everything's RNG based, right? Of random dungeons and random kind of enemy placements and treasure chests, the atla you get, which are little spheres you unlock to get parts to rebuild these villages. Those are like random in locations on the dungeons, but the order of which, certain characters or houses you get are definitely linear, which, yeah, it makes sense for this game, right? But I just love that sense of adventure and, yeah, the Zelda-like experience, because each dungeon you'll get a new party member, and that party member helps you throughout the dungeon and kind of helps you through the bosses of those dungeons too, right? Very Zelda-like, where those games you go in the temple, get a big item from a treasure chest, and you have to use that item on the boss and through the rest of the dungeon, right? So Yeah, and love this, Sims-like aspect of just rebuilding houses because I didn't grow up with PCs, but my friends did, so got to experience The Sims a lot at their houses. Like, we did have a computer at some point, but it was really, really bad. But yeah, and I love just building these houses, rebuilding the villages because I love doing just that building aspect in The Sims, right? So that was really, really cool. But my biggest memory with this is always going to be the fact that because we didn't know anything about the PlayStation 2 or anything like that, and because it was backwards compatible with PlayStation 1 games, we just assumed, hey, we can use PlayStation 1 memory cards on these PS2 games, and obviously, yeah, you can't. So I remember having to wait another week before we could go back to the mall because, yeah, at this point we wouldn't have had a vehicle or anything, so it was definitely a lot harder for us to get out to go to, the store's electronics boutique at the time, right? So, yeah, it was funny of trying to play this game without being able to save, and like other people want to use the console or use the TV, so you have to turn it off at some point. But yeah, it was just so fun to experience that, and yeah, those are kind of my big memories with this game. Now let's quickly talk about some of the cons because I love this game, so I like to get kind of some cons out of the way, some things that maybe could have been improved on or might have been improved on with Dark Cloud 2 or Dark Chronicle, depending on where you live, right? So let's talk about those quickly. So I said you get different party members throughout, and most of them are really fun to use. The only exception to this is Goro. Once you get Goro, I just did not like his playstyle. He attacks pretty slow and his range is also pretty limited, so his character I found just wasn't the greatest for kind of my style of play, right? Also, bosses I found were pretty underwhelming, especially compared to many other games out there. Some bosses aren't too bad, but I found especially the third and fourth ones to be quite underwhelming because the fourth boss is, yeah, super, super easy and pretty forgettable, and then third boss is this Ice Queen. Now, I love the backstory of this character. I love the music that it plays, but man, do I struggle on this fight because she can freeze you and all that, so I always cheese my way through this fight of hiding behind a pillar, as the whole idea with her is you have to attack her with a melee character and then you have to attack her with a ranged character, right? But because she can freeze and all that, I always have a Dragon Feather to quickly run up to her, attack her, hide behind a pillar, then switch to one of my ranged people and attack the queen that way and rinse and repeat, right? But yeah, I think bosses overall could have been a bit better with this. Also, I talked about how dungeons are kind of RNG based and random, and sometimes that can be a bit frustrating depending because you can get pretty unlucky with some of these chests because throughout the game you get different weapons that you use because your starting weapons are pretty bad. But as you go on, through these dungeons, occasionally you'll run into big chests that will have weapons for you, or you can go to these bonus areas which usually have bonus chests, but again, sometimes you can go to the bonus areas and they have nothing. You can go for a long time without getting a new weapon. Like the first character you get besides Tone, the main character here called Xiao, like she once you're able to get good weapons for her, she's very useful, but her starting weapon is pretty bad, and I got very unlucky playing this again where I didn't get another slingshot for her for probably about halfway through the second area of this game, which is... I don't think that's ever happened to me where I had to wait that long to get another weapon for her, so yeah, unfortunately RNG can make things a bit unlucky for some people. There's also a bit of a trial and error to this game, as it takes a while to kind of get used to and learn kind of the mechanics, because you know, there is a lot of micromanaging with kind of the thirst meter, right? And you got the weapon durability, which you have to be very careful with, because if you're using just regular repair powder instead of auto repair powder, then you could be in the heat of battle and lose a weapon. I did that once during this playthrough with my serpent sword, so I had to just quit the game and reload because I did not want to lose that sword at the time. Luckily, I saved right before I entered that dungeon, so wasn't too big of a deal, but it is this trial and error process to get used to, for sure. And then, probably the last thing, which for me isn't really a con, but it might be for some people, and that's village events are sometimes different depending on what time of day you enter their house, along with depending on if you unlocked a certain party member. Big example with this is for the third area, Queens, where if you haven't unlocked Ruby as a party member and you go and do one village event, then if you don't have her with you, you miss out on getting 2 free weapons, right? And that could be frustrating for some people. Now, you can buy them right after because you unlock the weapon store from this, which you can buy both of them from there, but still, it's nice when you could get them for free, right? So that can be a bit frustrating for people, but like I said, it's part of a pro for me, because we'll get into that about replayability, because I love that depending on how you enter these events at certain times of days or wherever, you'll get different items. But yeah, we'll talk about that later. And then final thing I kind of want to quickly talk about is dungeon designs are, you know, very repetitive. There's not a whole lot of variety in the dungeons along with the enemies themselves, because a lot of enemies you'll find on other areas on their dungeons, just different variations of those ones, right? And so once you enter a dungeon in one area, every other floor is going to look exactly the same. But that's pretty much all the cons I have for me personally. You know, I do love this game, so a lot of these were just small nitpicks that, you know, weren't really a big deal for me personally. So yeah, let's talk about the pros now. So I have quite a bit to say with how much I love this game and the pros I found, and let's start with just the music. I love the soundtrack of this game. You got some menacing music for certain bosses, and then you got really nice peaceful songs throughout the game of these towns and villages you visit, right? I love the soundtrack of this game. The Zelda type adventure and progression I really enjoy, of getting, you know, a new party member each area and having those characters help me throughout because they all have different abilities, right? And I just really, you know, I love that about older Zelda games, and that linear type Zelda adventure, right? And then, you know, once you get going, once you get used to the mechanics, I find this game gets very addictive. You can find yourself playing for hours at a time going through dungeons just like that, right? And once you really get a lot of these weapons, man, it just becomes really fun to level up these weapons, because yeah, there's a lot of customization with this game of just leveling up your weapons, adding little accessories to them, or I should say more add-ons that will help either with your attack or gain a weapon with an elemental ability or helping that weapon defeat a certain type of enemy, right? And I really love that. There's a lot of great backstories for a lot of the characters, and the characters themselves are just really fun, cool. You know, there's a lot of funny moments in this game too. I really love it. Like I said, besides Goro, the other party members are really fun to use. I like all of them, you know, and yeah, Ruby is really cool with her elemental abilities with her ring, and then once Xiao gets going, like, man, she's really cool. And Osmond too, like, he's pretty fun, even though his attack is pretty weak. I really like using him, right? And yeah, again, lots of replay value for me because there's so much you can unlock with different weapons, different abilities you can get, and I just really like that, you know. It's still very linear and the whole process is for sure, but I just really like how the dungeons have that RNG element where you go in and it's like, oh, I hope this playthrough, maybe I'll use these type of weapons, or maybe I'll make this game a bit more difficult for me, wherein because you can upgrade everyone's kind of thirst level along with their health by getting rare items that you usually get throughout the villages that you complete, because every time you rebuild houses and everything, you will find little chests besides these houses that can upgrade. But the replay value is just really cool of having you know, you can create your own difficulty basically of like, okay, I'm going to try and do this without upgrading any of these characters. They're not going to have any extra health or anything like that, or you just upgrade everyone, balance it all out, right? It's just really fun for me, and yeah, just rebuilding these villages. And I like how they have this request thing where every village will have, you know, a certain way they want their house to face or location they want within the village, and once you complete those requests you get some pretty cool items, usually weapons throughout. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. And I found, you know, the puzzles themselves are very approachable. Like, this might be a con for some people about puzzles because, yeah, sometimes they're super easy, or it's just kind of like you're forced to switch characters in and out all the time to complete a certain puzzle to unlock a certain door. But for me, I just like that it's simple like that, you know, nothing that makes your head explode, right? I really like that. And then there's a lot of different various locations to visit. I really like that because as much as the dungeons might repeat themselves, the locations themselves are really unique and cool to find. And speaking of unique, this game, like Level 5, creates some of the most unique gaming experiences ever out there. They are so fun. It's a big reason why they're one of my favorite developers ever, and yeah, I just love their games so much. And Dark Cloud's one of my favorites still to this day, and like I said, I think this game still holds up very well graphically. Like, it's just a lot of fun to look at. There's a lot of cool things to do, you know. Story-wise, it's very interesting because you got these people from the east resurrecting this dark genie who's kind of destroying the world, right? You learn more about the genie as you progress throughout. You learn a bit more from this fairy king who saves you at the beginning in the game. And yeah, having Tone as the main character, there's just so much to like about this. So yeah, those are kind of the big pros for me. And so those are my thoughts of Dark Clouds. Tell me what you think. Do you agree, disagree with any of my thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below. Like I said at the beginning, let me know your memories of this game. And yeah, I didn't want to go too much into the storytelling or anything like that. I just want to use these JRPG flashbacks to just conceive my feelings about these games and what they mean to me, right? So I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed this format. And yeah, let me know about this series as a whole. You know, things that maybe I could maybe improve on or change. Let me know in the comments down below. And I'll see you next time, everyone, for more JRPG flashbacks, along with other videos I do on my channel. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Hey, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and comment, and subscribe if you want to see more, or if you just want to see any of my skits and then nothing else and leave the video, that's fine too. Thanks, everyone. Take care.